All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Eternal Dialogues podcast. I know it's been a long time since I filmed the last one, but that's just because I was in school and it was really hard to balance my semester with podcasting. So I thought of waiting for all of it to get over, and now my summer has started. I've graduated and I'm ready to do more podcasts. In this episode, I've decided to change things up a little bit. So instead of my mom, who you've seen in the past few episodes, I have my dad with me, my appa, and I'm really excited to speak with him today about the Indian elections. How are you feeling doing your first podcast with me?
I'm feeling very good, very excited.
So, since my childhood, the Indian elections have always been a very exciting time in our family just because Appa is always glued to his screen, looking at all the YouTube videos of all the analysis and commentaries and live streams of news live streams. And you're just discussing with my mom all the time about, this party fielded this candidate, they shouldn't have done that, they shouldn't have done this, what are the big issues. Like, I've seen so much discussion about it that even though I've never lived in India, I feel so connected to these elections. So that's what I wanted to actually talk about with you today, to kind of break down everything that you've seen so far, and not just with this election, but just since the previous few elections too, the ones that you've seen in your childhood up until today's elections, kind of breaking down how things have changed over time. And I think I want to learn so much because I know you have so much knowledge, and that's how you spend your time. So I'm excited to talk to you about it.
I'm so happy to be talking about elections because, since since I was 9 or 10 years old, I've been taking good interest in all the elections, and especially when I turned 15, 16. At that time, since that time, I've been following the Indian elections very closely.
Okay.
And
That's around the same time I also started following, because I remember when Manmohan Singh was prime minister for me.
Okay.
I was never clued in. I just knew he was our prime minister from 2004 to 2014. But then 2014, when Modi became prime minister, that's the first time I perked up and was really interested to see what was this big change that took place.
So 2014, you were exactly 16. So just
around the
same
time.
Same age. Yeah. Okay.
So tell me a little bit more about your first experiences in your childhood with the elections in your family. What did it feel like? What was that experience like watching elections?
So yes, my first election, Indian elections that I remember, was in 1977. I have vague memories, but some of the things I remember very clearly. I remember very clearly that we had just moved to this new house built by your grandfather, and there was hardly any furniture, and of course there was no TV. In the whole neighborhood, there was like one or two TVs. So the whole neighborhood used to gather in one house, and it was a festive atmosphere. We were being treated to some tea and snacks, and we'll be watching the election results, which used to take like 4 days to come those days because it was all ballot papers, not the electronic voting machines you see today, where you press a button and you know the number, how many people voted for which party. So it was very different back then, right? It was all ballot papers, and they used to take a long time by hand counting. And so to keep the public glued to the election results, they used to play movies.
Oh.
And one movie I remember particularly that was screened so many times that we knew every scene before it even appeared, and that was Chupke Chupke, Dharmendra and Sharmila Tagore movie. So I did not know, what it means, which party stands for what are the policies, what are they promising, nothing. We just used to be there for the movie. And can you imagine that the movie will run for 2 minutes and then they suddenly stop it and the newscaster will appear and say, so and so has won from this constituency, defeating so and so by so many votes.
Oh, wow.
And we used to hate that part because we were there not for the election results as kids, we were there for the movie.
So those were the elections where you were just watching it for the movie. But what was the first election where you paid attention to what was happening and you were interested?
That I think was 1984.
Okay.
In 1984, I was 16,
year.
just like
Yeah.
when you started taking interest. And I remember that very clearly because our Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, was shot dead by her own bodyguards
Okay.
on 31st of October 1984.
Wow.
And of course, there were 3-4 days of complete chaos, riots, which happened in Delhi. I was witness to that.
You were in Delhi then.
I was in Delhi at that time. I don't have a great memory of elections of 1980, which
Okay.
was won by, so again, to remind you, in 1977 elections was a landmark elections in Indian history.
Yeah.
Because after the, as you're probably aware that Mrs. Indira Gandhi, our Prime Minister, in 1975 imposed emergency
Okay.
in the country. So that means they curtailed the press freedom. They bundled all the opposition people into jails, and anybody who spoke against the government was jailed or prosecuted. And when Mrs. Gandhi announced elections in 1977, she was thoroughly defeated by people, even though the opposition had no money, they didn't have a leader.
And who was that opposition?
So opposition was just a ragtag bunch of people who were like left Congress,
Congress is
previously or at that point in time, opposing the emergency, and also some opposition leaders who were always opposed to the Congress since the beginning. So they came together and formed a party called Janata Party.
Okay.
And stood for elections against Ms. Indira Gandhi. They had no money, they had no resources to fight elections against the might of the Congress, but people were behind them.
Right.
So people's might prevailed, and Mrs. Gandhi was thoroughly defeated.
Okay, just to stop you there. So I know we're starting from 1977, but do you want to say something about the elections prior to that? I know that you were not paying attention to those, but between 1947 and 1977, so Congress was in power all the time?
So yes, just to do a recap of what happened from 1947 to 1977, 30-year period.
Yes.
As you know, when we got our freedom from British, Congress assumed power.
Yeah.
And Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Prime Minister of India.
Yes.
So the first elections were not held in 1947.
Oh, okay.
So at that time, what happened was that there was a 16 people constituent assembly, which had, I think, the chief ministers, which had representatives from all over India, 17 representatives. And they were asked to vote for their choice of Prime Minister in 1946. And you would be surprised to know that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was our first Prime Minister, got 0 votes out of those 17. Zero. And Sardar Patel was highly regarded.
Okay.
He got like 13 or 14 votes. But Nehru prevailed upon Gandhi, who prevailed upon Sardar Patel to withdraw his name. And that is how he became. And Congress says they are the protector of the democratic values.
But
so this was a fraud on India right in the beginning.
Yeah.
So Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru got 0 votes. Wow. But anyway, the first elections were held in 1952.
Okay.
And of course, Mahatma Gandhi had suggested in 1947, when we got independence, that we should dissolve Congress and make 2 parties, so that there's a healthy opposition and there's one party ruling, one party is acting as opposition. But Nehru didn't listen to Mahatma Gandhi. Because I think maybe there were some genuine reasons as well, because the nation had just gone through a very painful partition. Millions were killed and many millions were displaced, tens of millions displaced, and there was a period of healing, which was the need of the hour. So I think that may be the reason that they thought that if there's an opposition party, then they will not be able to focus on development work. So maybe it was a good decision. I don't know. But so 1952, there was hardly any opposition to Prime Minister Nehru.
And
so he won again.
Mahatma Gandhi wasn't even alive.
Mahatma Gandhi was unfortunately shot dead in 1948, as you know, on January 30th, 1948. So he was not there. So Sardar Patel was not there. Sardar Patel has also passed away by that time.
Oh, he had passed away?
Yes, he passed away in 1950. But in those 3 years, he did such an awesome job of uniting India. And
even after 1947.
Even after 1947, because a couple of states refused to merge with India.
I see.
and they were playing all sorts of games. Like the Nawab of Hyderabad was in touch with British and Pakistan, so that they could merge with Pakistan.
Yeah.
Imagine the ridiculousness of the whole proposal. And so Sardar Patel would have none of these. So he sent his army and make sure that Hyderabad, the princely state of Hyderabad, it became part of India. So the map of India you see today, we owe it to Sardar Patel. Really a very pragmatic person, very wise, and with a very good head on his shoulder. Unlike Pandit Nehru, who was more flamboyant and very good orator, but lacking in administrative skills, I would say.
Vision.
He had a very idealistic way of looking at things, and so Sardar Patel was more pragmatic.
Okay.
So he could see through the UN. Sardar Patel took, Pandit Nehru took the Kashmir issue to UN, despite being warned against by Sardar Patel, and that was a mistake that India is paying even today. We lost. We have not been able to resolve Kashmir, and because of that, all tension with Pakistan. So anyway,
okay.
so
I know it's a bit of a
without
tangent.
going into those geopolitical issues, since we are focusing on elections, 1952 Congress won unopposed.
Okay.
1957 Congress won unopposed. 1962 Congress won unopposed.
Okay.
Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ruled for 17 years. But 1962 was another landmark moment in India's history when we lost the war to China.
Okay.
And I think that broke Pandit Nehru, and I think his health started deteriorating. Of course, the whole nation was hurt.
Yeah.
But I think it dealt a deadly blow to Pandit Nehru, and I think he passed away in 1964.
Okay.
1 or 2 years after the defeat in
Yeah.
China. So that was an era which came to an end. 17 years of rule of Pandit Nehru, and so his victories really had not much opposition. Little bit of opposition was there in states probably, but there was no national party which could challenge Congress, and so. When we say that Pandit Nehru won 3 successive elections, we have to keep that in mind, that there was hardly an opposition. Right? Then came the elections of 1967, because remember the last election was 1960, and this 1967, first time there was no Pandit Nehru.
Yeah.
And his daughter, even though she was in his government, she didn't hold any important ministries. And there were other stalwarts in Congress who wanted to become prime minister or have. And I think in that election, probably 67, I think around that time, I don't remember clearly, or I don't. I haven't really gone into that much of detail. But what happened was the Congress split for the first time. A lot of people were opposed to a lot of policies. And by the way, we had Shastriji, Pandit Lal Bahadur Shastri, becoming the next prime minister. He ruled for like 2 years.
After Nehru.
After Nehruji.
So before Indira Gandhi.
Before Indira Gandhi, it was Pandit Lal Bahadur Shastri.
Okay.
Now, he was a very good man.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he died very early, very mysteriously too, because we fought another war with Pakistan. We defeated them. But during the peace negotiations in Tashkent,
Uzbekistan, right?
Yeah, Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
That's where I think people say he suffered heart attack. Some people say it was a conspiracy. He was killed, but nobody knows what happened there. But unfortunately, he did not rule for more than even less than 2 years, I think. So that created a lot of chaos in Congress, because now there was a tussle going on who would become the prime minister. And I think Congress got divided because I think it got divided into 2 factions. One was called Congress I, Congress Indira.
Okay.
And all the other stalwarts were opposed to her from another party called Syndicate, Congress Syndicate, probably. I think that was the name. But Mrs. Gandhi was able to defeat all of them, all the stalwarts. And she was called Gungi Gudiya. That means a dumb means a mute, a mute doll. That's what it translates in English. That means she would hardly be able to speak. She has such a soft voice, and she would be so shy of speaking, public speaking. that nobody can believe that once you look at her next 17 years of her prime ministership in India. She became the Iron Lady of India, ironically. So that was very, but initially she wasn't like that. She was very shy and very not very good in public speaking, but it changed. So Congress I emerged as the main Congress, and all the others were defeated, and they fell by the wayside over a period of years. And then very cleverly, I think what happened was maybe serendipitously, the war with Bangladesh came to her rescue when her popularity was down, and that soared her popularity again. And she won the 1972 elections, or 70. She won 1973 elections. I think it happened in 1973 or 72 actually. Yeah, sorry, 1972, because 67 and then 5 years is 72.
Right.
And she won handsomely at the back of the split of Pakistan into Bangladesh. Because we defeated Bangladesh in like 5 or 7 days, something like that. Very swiftly.
Defeated Pakistan. Yeah. And freed Bangladesh.
Freed Bangladesh, right? Yeah. And we captured about 80,000 of their soldiers.
Oh wow.
But she let them go for nothing. I mean, she could have negotiated Kashmir right then and there, because Prime Minister Bhutto of Pakistan was feeling very desperate. He was getting pressure from his people to bring those soldiers back.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Gandhi just lost a great opportunity to solve the Kashmir problem right then and there. Anyway, so that was Mrs. Gandhi, but then very soon, because of some international situations and also maybe because of her policies, people started turning against her. Her popularity nosedived very quickly. As quickly as it rose, very quickly it died down as well. And remember one thing, that the OPEC, the power of OPEC, caused the petrol prices to rise exponentially. The whole world felt but the poor countries felt the most. And India was also, as you know, the energy prices, whenever they go up, it affects everything around us. So the poor could not afford bread, and they could not afford a lot of things, and poverty was rampant, and there were no jobs.
Yeah.
So all this, maybe partly maybe her fault, maybe some was because of the international situation, which she had no control over. But anyway, there was a by-election, I think, in which she stood from I think Allahabad in UP.
This is which year?
This is probably 1973.
Okay.
And it's Raebareli. Raebareli. And there was a guy by the name of Raj Narayan, who was kind of called the clown of the Indian politics. He stood against her and defeated her. But Mrs. Gandhi rigged the votes.
What?
And won.
I mean. And
Raj Narayan went to court, Supreme Court, saying that she has rigged the poll here. And the court decided in the favor of Raj Narayan and declared her disqualified, Mrs. Gandhi.
So that must have also.
So when this happened, she got very, 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 very upset, and she imposed emergency.
Oh, that
is what led to her imposing of emergency. Of course, she gives the reason that the India was in danger from China, Pakistan, external forces. But everybody knows that's bullshit. Basically, she just
if she lost her MP, if she lost that, she couldn't be prime minister, right?
She couldn't be prime minister.
That's why she decided.
That is why she decided. And what happens is, when you impose emergency, then you curtail the powers of court, the media, the press, everything. So she had the power to reverse the decisions of Supreme Court. So she reversed that. Right?
Sounds like a Daenerys Stormborn Game of Thrones moment.
Absolutely. Sorry, it is Game of Thrones. India is always about the Game of Thrones, but all democratic, right? Except those 2 years of black years of Indian democracy. Unlike Pakistan and China, Indian democracy is a shining example of how a large country, and mind you, it's not easy for democracy in our country because of this so many problems and so much diversity in India. in not just in food and clothing and languages, not just the cultural diversity, but also the political ideology. I mean, you have all the way from Communist Party to a Traders Party. Somewhere you have more Hindutva focused party. Somewhere you have a Muslim party. Somewhere you could have even a Sikh party. So it's not easy. So, but to India's credit, that more or less they have maintained the democracy kicking and alive and kicking for so many years.
And back to emergency, 1977, was that?
1977, emergency was lifted.
So
because you can't continue with that, and the whole nation was getting angry. The whole international community didn't look at it favorably.
Yeah.
So she had to revoke it sometime or the other, right?
But how many years did it go for?
2 years.
And
1975 to 1977.
Do you remember what life was like for you in emergency?
I don't remember because we didn't feel any difference as kids. But my dad tells me, and my uncles and people who were adults at that time, they told me that it was a good period because the Indian railways started running on time, which used to get delayed, right? So some things worked well.
Why did it run on time? Just because of emergency?
One, because emergency. I mean, people were afraid that now any time if they don't work, they can be kicked out, and they can't have a recourse to the legal system. So that made people afraid, and sometimes fear works.
Yeah.
Right. So this fear of losing job, I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing here.
Yeah.
That may be the reason, right?
Yeah.
Because as you know, they were notorious for all the Indian railways in a very bad condition. They would never run on time. There would always be crowded, overcrowding, and so all these issues were there. And accidents were happening. Rail accidents were so common those days that every couple of months you'd hear that some train went offline and fell down. And
was the emergency the first time freedom of press was curtailed, or was during Nehru's time as well? I think you were telling me something about that.
Yes. So the thing is that when Pandit Nehru became Prime Minister, the first amendment to the Constitution he brought, ironically, for a party which boasts of democratic credentials, the first amendment he brought was to curtail the freedom of the press.
The whole 17 years.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah. So he was so intolerant of criticism that anybody who wrote a poem criticizing him, he would be jailed.
Okay.
So Pandit Nehru jailed a very well-known lyricist of those times. As you know, the Indian cinema was at its peak at that time.
Yeah.
Naushad was coming out with great music, and we had some great lyrics of those days. Mohammad Rafi had just come onto the scene, and he was making waves like anything. And so Majrooh Sultanpuri was a very reputed lyricist of those days. He criticized Nehruji in some meeting or some poem he wrote against him or something. I don't exactly know what the details. But he was jailed for 2 years. So much for the democratic credentials of the Congress Party, of Pandit Nehru. But that may not, there was silver lining there. Because he was jailed, Naushad, who was the top music director, and Majrooh was in his team, and he got jailed, and he was getting so many movie offers, Naushad, that he found it very difficult to work with him from jail. So he was looking for another lyricist, and he found a gem in Shakil Badayuni. We probably would never have heard of Shakil Badayuni if he was not jailed. That is not to praise Pandit Nehru, but you can see the irony there.
Of course.
So, and Shakil Badayuni turned out to be one of the top lyricists of Indian movies.
Yeah. Did Naushad stop working with
no.
when Majrooh Sultanpuri was released?
Very good question, right? So Majrooh came back, and you see the greatness of those people of those days. Even though they were competing, but they didn't keep any hatred in their heart or any anger against, So
he worked with both of them.
Yes, he worked with both of them.
Okay. Not to take away from the elections.
Yeah, of course, focus these elections, but it's nice to have these little tidbits around that time.
It's nice to know what
flavor of what India was like,
That's
not just
true,
in
that's
the
true.
political sphere, but also, in Indian movies.
social fabric of
social
that time
fabric
as
of that
well.
time, yeah, absolutely.
So coming back to, okay, emergency, let's start from there then. Let's go through each one of the elections and talk about the main electoral issues of that time. So where do you want to begin? We just talked about emergency. What was the next election? You said emergency was lifted in 1977. Was that the day of, like, that was the year of an election as well, 1977?
Yeah, so called for elections. She called for elections,
Okay.
1977. And she thought that she could win easily because she had jailed every opposition leader.
Indira Gandhi, yeah.
Yeah, she had jailed for 2 years. And one of them was current defense minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh.
Oh.
Yeah. Even when his mother died, he was not given parole.
Oh.
So such a cruel, and for no fault of his.
Yeah.
Without any charges, without any charge sheet, they were all kept in jail for 2 years. So, anyway, so Mrs. Gandhi was under the illusion that she can easily win because they had no money, they had no resources, they were all in jail, and of course she had to free them before the elections. Otherwise, people will doubt the election, right? So she freed them, and she was thoroughly defeated.
Yeah.
And Janata Party came to power.
Okay.
But they started fighting very quickly. They started fighting for who should be the PM.
Oh no.
So Morarji Desai became first opposition PM, non-Congress PM. But then very soon, 6-7 months later, Charan Singh started pressurizing him to step down and make him the Prime Minister. And there were others like Babu Jagjeevan Ram, and maybe a couple of others as well. Chandrasekhar, I don't know. And then within 2.5 years it fell. 1980 election had to call again because that infighting led to the collapse of the government. So 1980, even the elections were held, people realized that these are a bunch of jokers.
But Janata Party.
Janata Party was defeated, and Indira Gandhi got absolute majority. She came back to power.
Despite that emergency.
Despite that emergency.
Because people don't want coalition governments at the end. They don't want that kind of volatility.
No, they want coalition governments if it's stable.
I mean, ones that, like right now, for instance,
Yes.
if BJP lose, okay, this is like coming back to the
Right.
present day, but if BJP loses, we don't really know who's going to be the prime minister we don't want a coalition, essentially, right? So,
Yes and no. And I'll come to that.
okay, fine.
I'll come to that.
All right.
Because let's go in a sequence.
All right,
Let's
let's
go in
go in a
a
sequence.
chronological sequence. So you're talking about 1980.
Yeah.
Miss Indira Gandhi came back. And one thing I forgot to mention
Yeah.
was that, as you know, Mrs. Gandhi had 2 sons. Rajiv
Yeah.
Gandhi, elder one, Sanjay Gandhi, the younger one. Rajiv Gandhi was a very shy person. He married an Italian called Sonia Maino. And he didn't want to do anything to do with the public life that his mother was in. So even though she tried to get him into politics, he was not interested. He was an airline pilot and very happy with his life. He had a son and a daughter. Son is today very active in politics, Rahul Gandhi. Priyanka Gandhi is his younger sister. Is not in politics but supports Congress as and when needed. So, but Sanjay Gandhi, who was 2 years younger to Rajiv Gandhi, was politically very active right from his student days. And in fact, so much so that he had a big influence on Indira Gandhi. And he was not really a person known for, influencing people to take decisions. He used to sometimes coerce. He used to coercion as a tactics to get things done. And he probably might have used it on, to get coerce his mother into taking some decisions. And one of the most infamous incidents is the family planning, forced family planning measures that he imposed on people.
What does that
People
mean?
sterilized.
What?
He'll just take poor people, round them up, and forcibly sterilize them. Family planning measures.
Like sterilizing that they cannot...
Yeah, the men would be what you call the procedure will be performed on the men.
Oh.
So
they cannot have babies.
Cannot have babies, right? What is it called?
I don't know what it's called.
Vasectomy or
Vasectomy, yeah.
Vasectomy,
Yeah.
right? And so that was forcibly performed, and he became very unpopular for that.
Yeah.
And that's another reason that Indira Gandhi lost in 1977. And in that emergency, just slight anecdote from there.
Yeah.
Sanjay Gandhi was so powerful in those 2 years of emergency. He was literally running the show.
Yeah.
And so because everything was in the control of government, which was basically Congress party, Congress Indira, and Sanjay Gandhi was, the de facto prime minister. You can almost say that. So he wanted Kishore Kumar to perform in Delhi in a function organized by him, and Kishore Kumar refused.
Wow.
And so Mr. Sanjay Gandhi ensured that none of Kishore Kumar's songs were played in the All India Radio. All India Radio was very big those days because there's not as many. TV was just in its infancy those days, so not many people had TV. Understand?
Yeah.
So radio was the big medium those days.
Yeah.
And Kishore Kumar, such a popular, iconic figure in the Indian music and singing industry. None of his songs for 2 years played on All India Radio because he refused to. So you can see the
pettiness,
the pettiness and the vendetta unleashed by Sanjay Gandhi, and Indira Gandhi could not do anything.
That's kind of disgusting. That was what life was like.
Yes,
but,
and so Congress doesn't have a very good record on democratic principles.
But then you said they came back to power in 1980.
They came back to power
crazy,
because people were sick of their infighting going on in the opposition. So yes, people prefer single party if that party is doing well, is pursuing good policies, and is taking care of people's needs, right? But if it becomes authoritarian, right, it becomes dictatorial, then people would prefer. So it's not a either or situation. It's basically who can provide a stable government and a good government.
Okay, so let's go back to 1980.
1980. So 1980, Ms. Indira Gandhi won, no problem. She didn't have to get into any coalition. She won a majority of her own. But there was a Sikh insurgency brewing in Punjab at that time. It was at its height. People were being killed. Bomb blasts were going on. You sit in a bus and bomb will go off. And every day we used to hear I remember that reading in paper, because that's the time when I started reading paper and newspaper, and not just for film articles but also politics. That's the first time I got politically active, when I started reading all these things. What's happening in Punjab, the Khalistan issue, they're demanding a separate state of Khalistan. There was this team of terrorists and led by Blunder, who was leading the Khalistani movement in Punjab. And ironically, Blunder was created in a way by Ms. Indira Gandhi.
How?
Basically, she wanted to play different Sikh factions against one another. So she gave importance to Blunder so that he could destroy the other faction. But in that process, he became so powerful. And he turned against her.
It reminds me of Game of Thrones.
It is.
Like
it
there
is,
was
it is exactly
there's
like Game
one
of
whole
Thrones.
season where she Cersei, I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones, but I think this is so
I've seen a little
relevant.
bit, yeah.
Cersei empowers these faith militant groups in the hopes that they will destroy her opposition, who she was against, which was Marjorie and her people. And then they got so powerful that they went after Cersei. That's literally the same thing that you're describing.
Absolutely. Same thing happened with Iraq.
Yeah.
Iraq, was supported by US against Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an 8-year war that ensued between Iraq and Iran from 1980 to 1988.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And Saddam Hussein, if you remember that name.
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein became so powerful, he got that he started, going against the US wishes. Started going after Kuwait. And so this is another example of, and I think Hillary Clinton put it very nicely once, when she was visiting Pakistan, that if you rear snakes in your backyard, they'll not only bite your neighbor, they can even bite you also, right? So anyway,
so Indira Gandhi.
So Mrs. Indira Gandhi had no problem running, but the thing is that Sikh insurgency was getting out of hand, and she has to take a decision on, curbing it. And all the terrorists were holed up inside the Golden Temple because they knew that, it is forbidden in their police to enter the Golden Temple or army, and so but terrorists could enter. That process, she decided in 1984 March that we're going to send army in the Golden Temple, flush out the terrorists once and for all. And we still remember that day. The army completely surrounded. General Vaidya was in charge of, Lieutenant General Vaidya was in charge of this operation, Blue Star Operation Blue Star it was called. And within a week, they completely flushed them out because they cut off all the supplies, so no food can go in.
To the Golden
And so they had to come out, and they were shot. So they were, but in the process, some of the bullets, of course, hit the Akal Takht, which is the sanctum sanctorum of Golden Temple.
Oh.
And of course, it was repaired, but the many Sikhs didn't take very kindly to it, that they entered the holy temple, which was forbidden. So they had no problem with terrorists getting inside, but they had a problem with the army,
going in to
get the terrorists, right?
Yeah.
So you can see how people twist everything to their own ideological leanings.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that angered a lot of people, and Mrs. Gandhi's security cordon had some Sikhs, and she was advised that it's risky for you to have those, but she said no, I don't want to remove them from my security team. And that turned out to be a very fateful decision by her, because she was killed by her own security guard in her own garden, in her own house. Right? And they pumped like 17-18 bullets into her. I have such vivid memories of that day. When we came back from school, it was a half day, 31st of October, and we got this news. And the very next day, the Congress supporters were so angry with the Sikhs that riots started. And the riots were mostly one-sided because the Sikhs were outnumbered by these Congress people. And so when people say the Hindus attacked Sikhs, that's not correct. It's the Congress. Not every Hindu should be blamed. It's the Congress people who could not, because Indira Gandhi ruled for 17 years. It was like a big shock to them, but that didn't justify killing the Sikhs. But we have witnessed, we had some shops. Have you seen the market behind our house, right? So we had some Sikh shops there, and those people were rescued by us, our neighborhood. But they, of course, they burnt their shops. Their shops were burnt, and I could not believe that this is the same shop from where I used to buy the bread, eggs, cold drinks, things like that. And I was 16 years old. I've never seen a riot before, live, in front of my eyes. And you go to the terrace and you see everywhere, all around Delhi, there's smoke going on, They were burning gurdwaras, they're setting fire to gurdwaras, setting fire to shops.
Yeah.
And 3,000, 4,000 Sikhs were killed in Delhi. Very, very unfortunate. And most of them were poor.
Yeah.
So
that was not justified, of course. I mean, for them
to
go after with that because they were so angry.
Yes. But then what happened was, since the Prime Minister was killed and somebody had to be sworn in as a Prime Minister, so the President was Gyani Jail Singh, who was another Sikh. Oh. Gyani Jail Singh.
From Congress.
From Congress only. Right? And he was handpicked by Miss Indira Gandhi. Right? And so he sworn Rajiv Gandhi as the. And by the way, she managed to persuade. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that Sanjay Gandhi died in an air crash in 1980?
1980, 4
years.
Just
after she came to power, within a month.
Oh.
Within a month, because he was a very reckless guy.
Yeah.
Very daring, very, very ambitious. So he used to go for these flying lessons, and he forced his pilot friend like 6 a.m. in the morning. Let's go for a sortie. So they took off, and something went wrong, and the plane fell in one of the houses in Delhi. So I clearly remember that, 1980.
Okay.
The big news came, and it was the talk of the whole day in the school, and I didn't know. That's the first time I came to know Sanjay Gandhi was the son of Indira Gandhi, and I was hardly 12 years old at that time.
So he couldn't really take over after Indira Gandhi now that
she's passed away. So Indira Gandhi was worried now, who is my successor? She again tried to convince Rajiv Gandhi, and for 2 years he kept saying no. But finally she managed to prevail over him in 1982. So 2 years before her death, Rajiv Gandhi was accompanying her everywhere.
Yeah.
So when she passed away, he was sworn in as a Prime Minister by Gyani Jail Singh, which was the President, right? And the elections were due anyway in 1985, because after 1980 the elections were due in 1985. But Rajiv Gandhi called the elections immediately, and of course he won a landslide, 414 seats, because of sympathy for Mrs. Gandhi, right?
Yeah.
And also Rajiv Gandhi's face, such an innocent face and such a charming face he had, and he had absolutely clean record in politics.
He had not been part of politics.
Not been
so, I mean,
part of politics, and his family was very good-looking family, 2 kids, no record, and his smile used to captivate women, men, everybody, and he's very handsome guy, and so everything was in his favor, and stalwart opposition leaders were defeated. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was defeated. Lal Krishna Advani was defeated. Imagine. All the stalwarts lost.
They're from Janata Party.
From the Janata Party, and any opposition basically.
Okay.
So 414 out of 543, landslide. I mean, he could literally rewrite the constitution if he wanted.
So, what did he do with that large mandate then? Like,
but he had very little political experience, right? Because 2 years is not enough in Indian politics.
Yeah.
Plus, you need a very good head on your shoulder. And plus, it also helps that you come from the, through the Indian society. And he had a very charmed life, right? He was born in a sort of a royal family, went to English schools, convent schools, went to Doon School, one of the premier schools of India, in Dehradun. He studied abroad in UK, where he met Sonia, who was another student there, and they got married. So he had a charmed life. So he didn't know the realities of India. And so he made some blunders. He completely out of touch. He made some blunders. He did some good things as well. He computerized, brought the computerization to India. Beginning was made.
Could some argue that could have happened anyway? Like he's just...
Well,
just because he's in power.
Well, I mean, that argument is kind of a specious argument because nothing happens by itself. Somebody has to do something, right?
Yeah.
Same thing people say about Modi, that all the development would have happened anyway. So the roads would have been built by itself.
No, that's not what I mean.
That's not right.
Yeah.
So, that helped. I mean, a lot of companies you see today, like Infosys, it owes its origins to that time. The computerization started, and then obviously the computer education started in India, and then the computer graduates. Narayan Murthy is a product of those times. He was just graduated in 1980s, early 1980s, and he became a global brand for India later on. So what I was saying is that Rajiv Gandhi did some good things, but mostly he made some great blunders. And one of his blunder was, as you know, there was the insurgency going on in Sri Lanka. Have you heard of LTTE?
Yeah, the
Liberation Tigers of Tamil Land. So there was a movement going on for Tamil homeland. So
in Sri
Lanka, because they were not given their rights, and they were not happy with statehood. They wanted a complete separate nation.
Oh.
So and Sri
separatist movement
was going on, and they were very well armed and funded, which many people suspected that India was helping them.
Oh, okay.
The Indians were helping them. Otherwise, how could they become so powerful? They were able to bomb airports. They were able to bomb. I mean, their military was not able to cope up. Their whole army was not able to cope up.
Yeah.
And so, Rajiv Gandhi struck an accord with Sri Lankan government that we'll send our army to defeat this LTT, because they refused even mediation from even Indian government. And because of that, a lot of refugees from, I think, Sri Lanka were coming to India. Or I don't know what the motivation was for him to send our army people. Because if there's insurgency there, I mean,
we don't have to
real politics would say, we don't have to meddle, right?
It's their
problem. It's their problem, right? I mean, they have to handle it. Why would we send our soldiers to get killed there? And a lot of people were maimed there. A lot of soldiers got killed because it was a formidable fighting force.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you're going in their territory, so their familiar territory, you're not.
Yeah, that's
It's very different from India, and that led to a lot of casualties. And till today, people criticize Rajiv Gandhi for doing that for no reason, basically. Absolutely.
Probably inspired by his mother,
reason.
Wants to win a war type of situation, because that helps
that could be
your popularity.
That helps solve the problem. He didn't care about, So this is what happens when you're not in touch with the reality and you live in a cocoon.
Yeah.
When you come, and that's the same problem with Rahul Gandhi today.
Okay, we'll
in
fact,
I would say,
Gandhi later.
But I would say that Sonia Gandhi is, even though she has charmed life, but she has a very good head on her shoulders. She's able to appreciate some of these issues, but not Rahul Gandhi.
We're talking about Rajiv Gandhi, right? He won.
Rajiv Gandhi won in 1984,
Okay.
and as you know, the term of the government is for 5 years. So
And we're just talking about the
1989.
LTT issue, right?
LTT, I talked about that. That is one of the blunders that he made. But that was not really the reason for his downfall.
Okay.
The reason for his downfall was the Bofors scandal. Bofors is a gun made by a Swedish company. And there was a lot of corruption in the defense procurement because India, didn't have the capability to manufacture most of these defense items like big guns, tanks, the military aircrafts, right? All of these were imported from outside. Even today we import, but at least some of them we started making in our country. By that time, India was importing these guns, which was called Bofors, and in that, it was proved later that some kickbacks happened, and Rajiv Gandhi also received the money. And because of this, the government fell. And ironically, it was Rajiv Gandhi's own finance minister, Vishwanath Pratap Singh, who basically brought him down. And then he quit Congress party and formed Janata Dal, very similar to Janata Party, eerily similar to Janata Party.
Okay.
A lot of people came together opposed to Congress and formed a.
So I'm just a bit confused with the timeline. When was Rajiv Gandhi assassinated? Was this?
The assassination came later on. 1989, Rajiv Gandhi was defeated in the polls of 1989.
Okay.
So all that huge mandate he had earlier, he frittered away that, and Congress could not form the government. They got such low seats, so low votes in 1989. So he was out of power.
And because of the scandal
and the scandal and LTT and a host of other blunders he made. In India, it was not easy to do business at all. India was not a business friendly country. In fact, I would say that when Nehru became prime minister, he pursued a mixed economy approach. He was very influenced by Russia's 5-year plans. So he wanted to build big dams, big industries like fertilizer industries and refineries. But he also didn't shut down the foreign companies who were doing business in India, like Exxon and Shell, who had their own refineries. So he didn't shut them down or didn't nationalize them. They were operated. So it's called mixed economy. It means private as well as government, public, as they called in India. Government existed side by side. Unlike Russia, everything was government. In US, everything was private. So ours was called mixed economy because both existed at the same time. So Nehru pursued that, and I think the economy was not doing very badly till that war with China happened probably. India was still the 8th largest economy in that time. And Korea and Japan were developing economies that time, because Japan got completely destroyed in the war, as you know. Korea, World War II, very badly affected by the war with North Korea. China, of course, was suffered very badly during the World War, right? So that time, India was doing well. It has infrastructure that was built by British, which helped quite a bit. And so India was doing well, but Nehru made some big blunders on Kashmir. Large part of Kashmir, he could not get it back, which was easy to get it back. We were on the victory trail, our army, and he just called a ceasefire for no reason. And that was a very big blunder committed by him. Because of that, a large part of Kashmir is still with Pakistan. Right? And China, we lost a large amount of territory to China. So those are the blunders, plus taking the Kashmir issue to UN, warned by Sardar Patel not to do that, right? So all those things were there. So what I was trying to say is that India had a mixed economy. But when Indira Gandhi came to power, she nationalized all the banks. In Nehru's time, all the banks were private banks. There were some Indian banks also. But Indira Gandhi nationalized all the banks because maybe some banks did some fraud or something happened, they collapsed, people lost their money, and the anger was against the government maybe. So she nationalized all of them. So of course nationalization, they came under her control. So now she controls the complete finance situation in India. right? But as you know, anything with government will be inefficient. It's the private players who bring inefficiency because they have a personal stake in
They're also
so
profit chasing. They're able to.
they're able to, they have a personal stake in the business or the bank or whatever they are.
Whereas the government doesn't
the
have the
government
need to
doesn't
maintain
have.
profits because
They
they
don't
can just
have.
tax the people more.
They can just tax the people, and then everybody's baby is nobody's baby,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So who does it belong to? Government.
Yeah.
Or who in government? Not one person, right?
So Indira Gandhi brought so she nationalized it.
She nationalized all the banks.
All banks.
She nationalized all the refining companies. So
Everything.
Exxon was shunted out. Shell was shunted out. Their refineries they were forced to sell the refineries to and one of these refineries I started my career with in Bombay,
HPCL.
HPCL, Hindustan Petroleum. It was called SO earlier.
Oh.
SO basically means Exxon. Exxon in Asia was called SO.
Oh.
So that was that refinery that they got nationalized, and when I joined, it was already nationalized. 1991 when I joined the refinery. Right, and Rajiv Gandhi. So coming back to this license Raj, India was such a bad place for doing business. Is that taxes at one point in time were like 70%.
Oh my God.
So if you're a businessman
Rajiv Gandhi's time.
earning $1 to give 70 paisa to the government, you only keep 30. So who would be interested in doing business? Because doing business is a big headache, no?
Yeah.
You have to really, and a very risky enterprise too, right? I mean, it's not easy to set up business. A lot of risks are involved. So that was the situation, right? And everything required a permission from government. And as you know, if you require permission for something, then it will be corruption. People had to bribe people to get government officials to get permission to start this and that. And so Rajiv Gandhi did nothing to liberalize the Indian economy. And whereas China started liberalizing in almost late 70s.
Even Singapore.
Even Singapore.
Every other place.
No, but Singapore was still not a communist country, right? Because Lee Kuan Yew kept the communists at bay and he exiled them, all of them, and so Singapore was prevented by Lee Kuan Yew from going the communist way. There was a lot of pressure on. But China, of all the countries, it was a communist country, and they started following the capitalist path by liberalizing their economy in the late 70s. And today, see where they are because of that. So. But Rajiv Gandhi did nothing of that, right? He could have easily understood the threat from China and set India on the right course, but his inexperience,
and that also led to his loss then, 1989.
So he lost because of corruption scandals and also 5 wasted years, I would say.
And then there was also something.
Then after that there was chaos.
There was something about that I was reading about how he said that out of 1 rupee,
yes,
15 paisa,
exactly,
or makes it to the people's pockets.
That's a very famous quote by him. And so 85 paisa, according to some estimate, were being gobbled up by the middlemen. Because there was no direct way of reaching the government. Can't go to each and every person and give the money, right? So they had, it was through all these different mechanisms, the bureaucracy that we had, the district level and then the block level and at the village level.
Yeah.
Today, if 100% is allocated, 1 rupee is allocated, they get 1 rupee. There's absolutely no. It's called direct bank transfer, DBT. Remember this term, direct bank transfer.
So it looks like Rajiv Gandhi's time was, it looks like a really bad time. There was many issues with taxation.
It was
socialism.
Yeah, but that's
liberalization.
So it's not
scandals.
Rajiv Gandhi. It's not Rajiv Gandhi who did this. It was continuing from earlier because industrialists were seen as bad people, that they make a lot of money, but nobody saw the good side of that.
That's also around the time all the movies, Amitabh Bachchan movies were also being made too.
Amitabh Bachchan, when he
which
came,
shows capitalists as the bad guys.
As the bad people, they are all blood-sucking, Draculas. That's how they're shown. And so the image, and you see all the, poor people were glorified as if like there is some kind of a pride in being poor, And if you're rich, then you're a bad person. If you're poor, a good person.
Namak Haram.
Namak Haram. You saw that. It was an iconic movie.
It shows
in which
that.
it shows that, well, that guy was really bad. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody was good.
No, but they're showing industrialists as the bad
Yeah,
people.
so if they chose these themes, every theme is like that. The industries are bad people. Not a single movie you'll find those days which show industrialists as good people,
yeah,
who are helping the country, who's helping the society, who's helping give employment to people, right? Yeah. Support families.
So it's interesting to see how the movies are also product of the times, reflecting the political ideas.
You hit it on the head, right? I mean, this is how it is.
Yeah.
You don't see that movies today. This kind of movies today.
Yeah, now
right?
It's a bit
absolutely not, right?
Sure. Yeah. So he dies in 1989. Rajiv Gandhi.
No, he does not die in 1989. 1989, he loses power.
Okay, sorry, I keep getting
confused. And his own finance minister, who was in his government, he ditches him, right? And he joins the VP Singh.
VP Singh.
Vishwanath Pratap Singh.
Okay.
He joins Janata Dal and he's elected prime minister. The VP Singh did not have his own base. He was not a mass leader.
Yeah.
He was just from one constituency in UP he used to win. So
is Janata Dal different from Janta?
So Janata Dal is very similar to Janata Party, basically.
But two different parties.
Yeah, so Janata Dal is all local leaders came together in UP, Bihar, maybe Maharashtra, maybe Haryana, and they came together. 4, 5, 6, 7 different parties came together from Janata Dal. Some from South Karnataka, right? And some they also combined with the maybe DMK or AIDMK, I don't remember. So it's a hodgepodge of 10, 15 parties maybe who came together and formed the opposition to alliance to give a fight to Congress.
Right.
And they won. Because of these scandals and all, people thought that Rajiv Gandhi corrupt person and all. And VP Singh was chosen prime minister, even though he didn't have his own base. He was dependent on support from others. But very soon the cracks developed there because they started now hankering for power. Right? Initially, they come together on an opportunistic basis to defeat somebody. They don't think about who will be the prime minister. But once they come into power, then the bickering starts. Okay. Hey, why is he prime minister? Why not I'm prime minister? What's wrong with me? Right? Or my community.
Yeah.
So it started again, and just like Janata Party, Janata Dal also lost power within 1.5 years. 1991, again elections were held.
Okay.
So that showed this coalition in such bad light that people were sick of coalition. And 1991 is another landmark year because it heralds the rise of BJP as a party. BJP was always different from Janata Dal and Janata Party right from the beginning because Janata Party, Janata Dal, all the other constituents basically came out of Congress at some point or the other.
True. Yeah.
BJP was the only party which none of these leaders were in Congress.
I see.
In 1952, the party was formed by Dr. Shah Mukherjee, who was opposed to this special provision for Kashmir, Article 370.
Oh.
And would you believe that because of Nehru's idiocy, I have to say idiocy, he agreed to a special provision in Kashmir that they will have their own constitution, they will have their own prime minister. Can you believe?
Article 370.
But they is still called part of India. And Shah Mukherjee said, what nonsense is going on? So he said, एक देश में 2 निशान, 2 विधान and 2 प्रधान नहीं हो सकते. निशान, विधान, प्रधान.
Oh, nice.
Nishan is flag. Vidhan is constitution. Vidhan is constitution. Vidhan Sabha बोलते हैं ना, Vidhan Sabha. Pradhan is prime minister. You can't have 2 prime ministers in one country.
Yeah.
What is nonsense going on? You can't have 2 constitutions in one country. You can't have 2 flags. Have you seen any other country just 2 flags?
No.
And in fact, he was such a great orator in parliament. Even Pandit Nehru was impressed by him. But then they were on the opposite sides of the political spectrum, and he went to Kashmir to basically protest, and he was jailed there, and he was killed next day. Such a healthy man died at the age of.
So BJP was founded on a to help Kashmir. I didn't realize that.
No,
I thought it was Ram
No,
Mandir.
no. A lot of other issues were there.
Okay.
So when Shyam Prasad Mukherjee, lot of these people were part of, they came from Hindu Mahasabha, and some of them were RSS people also. So BJP was basically, was called Jansangh earlier, Jansangh. That's why even today they call Sanghis, even though it's called BJP, but they call Sanghis. Why? Jansangh. Jansangh. People were part of Jansangh. Remember, Jansangh was called Jansanghi, and in short, Sanghi.
Oh, I never realized why they were calling BJP Sanghi, but that's interesting.
And RSS, which was formed in 1925 as a cultural organization, they realized that they need to have political arm. So RSS didn't want to become political, so they said we'll create BJP as a political arm. So a lot of people there were from BJP. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was from RSS, so he joined BJP.
And let's go back to 91.
91. So we are in 91. We're talking about the 89. We were right when we were defeated. Okay. Janata Dal now collapsed.
Singh.
Yeah, VP. So Janata Dal collapsed. 91 elections happened.
Yeah, landmark year.
Landmark year, absolutely landmark year.
What happened that year?
That year, two things happened. One is that in 1991, elections were underway, and May 21st, Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated.
Oh.
Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. And Congress was still not doing well, by the way. Even after Janata Dal collapsing, Congress was not doing well. All the opinion polls were saying that, Rajiv Gandhi is not able to. But he was doing all the political meetings in Tamil Nadu, UP, everywhere. But again, his security people advised him not to meet people because there were a lot of threat from LTT because they were against, because they knew that he has sent the army to finish off LTT, right? So there was a lot of threat to him, but he ignored his just like his mother, you see.
The fact that he repeated the same mistake.
Exactly the same mistake that his mother.
That's insane.
That he got killed by that woman.
Tamil terrorist?
By a Tamil terrorist.
From Sri Lanka.
From Sri Lanka. Tamilian from Sri Lanka. Supported well by many local Tamil leaders from India as well.
Oh.
Because such a big operation cannot take place without the support, logistical support, And in fact, some of the people who supported her were found in Bangalore. So anyway, so that was a landmark year because Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated, second assassination. But of course, he was not Prime Minister at that time. His mother was Prime Minister, but he was not. But that had a very, very traumatic impact on Rahul Gandhi. So he forbade his mother from entering politics at that time. He was a young boy at that time, and he said, "They've taken my grandmother away, they've taken my dad away. I don't want you to. We don't want to lose you." So I think both the kids prevailed upon her. So Sonia Gandhi then stepped aside. But what happened is, because it happened in the middle of the elections, so there were 4-phase elections, and 2 phases already were over when Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. Election Commission took an unprecedented step, which people criticize even today. They postponed the whole election by 3 weeks.
You're not supposed to do that?
You're not supposed to do that. According to the rules of this thing, if a candidate dies, and remember, he was a candidate. He may have been ex-prime minister, so what?
Yeah.
He was just a candidate. He was not the prime minister. If it was still the prime minister, then we could still, think about it that as an exceptional situation. But he was an ordinary person. And they postponed the election for 3 weeks, and then Rajiv Gandhi's ashes were taken from door to door, constituency asking for votes in the name of sympathy.
Yeah.
So the last 2 phases of elections were a lot of sympathy votes they got, but the first 2 were very bad. So they still could not win majority, but it came out as single largest party. They got like 230 votes or something. They needed 272. But then it's easy to form a government. So Narasimha Rao formed a minority government with support of other parties. And so Narasimha Rao actually is very, very ironical that he had actually almost retired. Narasimha Rao had spent 30 years with Indira Gandhi in her government, holding industry ministers, information broadcasting also, and commerce ministry and this and that, right? So he was one of the top leaders of Congress at that time.
Yeah.
But his health was failing or something, and he almost retired. Very learned man from Andhra Pradesh, Narasimha Rao, very learned man. He knew 8 languages, could speak 8 languages fluently: French, German, English, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Hindi, Punjabi. He was very fluent. Yeah. His Hindi was superb. If you see his speeches in Hindi, spoke pure Hindi.
That's a great
And Sanskrit,
pan-Indian
yes, very
kind
learned
of
fellow,
candidate.
very
for
well
us.
read,
Yeah.
very well read. But so when they looked around for prime minister, he was brought out of retirement and made prime minister.
Well, it seems like anytime, like usually Congress prefers the Gandhis, but if something unique like a assassination takes place, the person replacing it happens to be like a non-Gandhi.
Yeah, but then
In preparation for the next Gandhi to come at some point.
exactly. So even if they are directly not holding any post, they make sure that the person who is holding the post is under their control,
Yes.
so that when the time is ready, they can bring their
Their
offspring into
Yeah.
into the party.
True.
So at that time, I think Sonia Gandhi herself was traumatized by this
Yes.
event, and understandably so, right? So, and she stepped aside, and then they looked for a prime minister, and Narasimha Rao fit all the. And the situation was so bad at that time. Indian economy was doing so badly because of the management by Janata Dal, and before that by Rajiv Gandhi, is that we had no money to even pay the interest on the loan we had taken
From IMF.
from IMF or one of these international lending agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a couple of months, that interest had to be paid, and so maybe the installment had to be paid, big installment, and we didn't have money for that. You can imagine how precarious our economy was. That's the time then India had no choice but to liberalize its economy, right? It had to remove a lot of things from license Raj and allow the investors to come in, lower the taxes, so all those structural reforms. And that's the time Narasimha Rao brought Manmohan Singh as his finance minister. Manmohan Singh was the governor of RBI, the Central Bank of India, the federal bank here, like in US.
Yeah.
And so he was impressed with Manmohan Singh, so he brought him as the finance minister. Both of them are called the architects of the liberalization of Indian economy at that time. So
That's 91.
That is 91.
So they liberalized only because they were about to reach bankruptcy.
They were forced to.
Or
A lot of people say that, what credit to them. I mean, they were forced to do it. Anybody else would have done it because you had to do it. There was no other choice.
Absolutely.
Economy had to grow because how do you and for economy to grow, if you have no money, then how do you grow the economy? You have to get in money from outside.
Yeah.
Either you have your own money, right, or you get it from outside, or you take loan.
Yeah.
But if you take loan, then basically you are getting into a debt trap.
Absolutely. So what was now, 91, Narasimha Rao.
Narasimha Rao became prime minister.
What were the issues of his time after liberalization?
So after liberalization, a lot of foreign companies started shutting shops in India. They wanted a stable government, which Congress provided a stable government. Narasimha Rao was a good prime minister. He held a lot of investor conferences to tell them about and India was a big market. One of the things for which he is criticized even today, and ironically was disowned by Congress for this reason. And otherwise, a person who has served as prime minister of Congress should really be feted,
Lauded.
right? Lauded, feted, right? And but Narasimha Rao, you don't find his picture anywhere in Congress offices.
Why is that?
Why is that? Okay. Now I come to the second. Remember, I told you there were two major things happened in 1991.
Yes.
One was Rajiv Gandhi got. You didn't ask me what was the second one.
But liberalization was the second one.
No, liberalization happened after he became prime minister.
Which was what year then? 91?
91. Right, what I'm saying is 1991 elections.
Yeah.
BJP emerged.
Yes.
With 82 seats. It was the best performance of BJP ever. Because they were reduced to 2 seats in 1984. BJP was considered a Brahmin Baniya party, upper class party.
Yeah.
And upper class were very few in India, right? Most of them were OBCs and the Dalits and scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So BJP's image was that's the Brahmin Baniya party. All the traders of Delhi and all the shopkeepers and all, they support BJP. Right? And some Brahmins, that's it. And that too in cities. In rural areas, they had hardly any support. And in Rajiv Gandhi's time, when Rajiv Gandhi got 414, BJP got 2 seats. So they came out of the shadows of Janata Dal now. Earlier they had to merge with Janata Dal to form, they were forced to, because on their own they could not defeat Congress. They had to merge with Janata Dal. So all the bad things Janata Dal did or Janata Party did also fell on them.
Right.
But this time they decided we're not going to merge with Janata Dal. We're going to have our own identity.
Mm-hmm.
And it paid handsome dividends today if that they decided not to merge with the Janata Dal. So from 2 seats in 1984 to 82 seats in
1991.
And then people started seeing that this is emerging as an alternative to Congress. Before that, there was no one party alternative to Congress. They had a coalition, but no one party was able to challenge, right? And BJP got seats in Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat. So it's kind of becoming, you can see that it's growing into a pan-India party now, which no other party was able to do that. Janata Party disintegrated. Janata Dal started doing that, but then it became, broken into 4 pieces. Janata Dal S in Karnataka, Janata Dal U united in Bihar, Lok Dal in UP. So it frittered away because they don't have a common ideology. Mm-hmm. BJP has the advantage of a common ideology of RSS, Hindutva, right? Against Gohatya, they're against the killing of cows, right? And they are very highly focused on the Indian culture, ancient culture. Mm-hmm. Ram Mandir became a big issue for them.
Ram Mandir was 91?
Ram Mandir was 91.
Okay.
In fact, 91 elections happened because BJP brought down the government of Janata Dal. Because why? VP Singh brought Mandal Commission. Mandal Commission, that was a landmark moment in Indian history, which I will talk about some other time.
Okay.
But BJP saw that with this Mandal Commission report, VP Singh is trying to completely change the whole electoral dynamics of this nation. Because essentially what Mandal Commission said is that there's a lot of, that time, before Mandal Commission report, all the reservation was only for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Mm-hmm. But there was a vast majority of these backward castes, which remained backward. They not got reservation in the government. Mm-hmm. So they recommended reservation for all these people to lift them out of poverty. Mm-hmm. Some people saw it as dividing India into the communities now, right? So those who get reservation will be envied by people who didn't get it. Mm. So BJP saw this as a very big threat to India and also their own existence. Mm-hmm. So they came up with Ram Mandir issue. Before that, Ram Mandir was not such a big issue. Okay, it was a manifesto, but they never made a big poll issue. But this time, Lal Krishna Advani, he started this Rath Yatra, Kanyakumari to Kashmir. Mm-hmm. Every state going through and making people aware of the Ram Mandir and thing, right? And Narendra Modi was the charioteer, or he was in charge of organizing that yatra. So you can see how Narendra Modi has come up through the ranks and file of the government. He has worked at the lowest level, putting posters, right? Spreading daris, spreading carpets for people who come to the conference, right? So that is how he has come. So he has a very good understanding of people of India and what their aspirations are. But anyway, so this is where we are.
So how is that related to Narasimha?
So 91. So the second momentous thing was that BJP emerged as a big opposition party, the largest opposition party, which they never had before. Mm-hmm. As you know, in 1993, Babri Masjid was demolished.
Yeah.
And that is because when Advani was doing his Rath Yatra, a lot of car sevaks, right, were gathered in Ayodhya, where the masjid stood. Masjid had 3 domes basically, right? And they would protest there and all, but nobody thought that it would be brought down. But people were so charged up one day and there was always people expected apprehension that it could be brought down. And so that time, BJP government was in UP. Kalyan Singh was the Chief Minister of UP. So BJP's first government in UP. So Kalyan Singh assured that nothing will happen. Car sevaks will not be able to, police will take care, right? He gave assurance to the center. And when they started bringing down the mosque, one drone came down, and immediately police couldn't do anything because the car sevaks was just everywhere, and police was outnumbered, and they had also had the support of locals probably. So then news reached Delhi, and Narasimha Rao, for some very inexplicable reason, they could not meet him because he shut himself in a room. Somebody said he's sleeping, somebody said he's praying, and he came out after 6 hours or something. By that time, and Congress thought that he has done it deliberately.
Oh.
So he could have sent the army if he had, right? So the messenger couldn't meet him. So obviously he must have known this is going on. That's what the Congress people say. And he said, well, I was sleeping or I was meditating or whatever, or busy. So I only got to realize at like 6 p.m. in the night. By that time, so that means he aided in that. That is why the Congress, all the secular credentials that
Is
they
that
tout.
proven? Do we know what he was thinking?
So there were people who were there at that time.
Yeah.
People very close to him, his private secretary and all. They are coming out with their books. They're describing what happened that day. In all likelihood, he aided this. He wanted this to happen probably.
Okay,
And one thing I forgot to tell you about Rajiv Gandhi, which actually one of the most blunders, which affect the Congress even today. There was Shah Bano case. It was a very innocuous case. Nobody even knew about that case. Shah Bano was a Muslim woman, 80 years old, who was divorced by her husband. And according to Muslim personal law, Sharia law, she is not entitled to any alimony from her husband. She went to Supreme Court. And how will I live? Supreme Court ordered that no, this is unfair. But then all the Muslim mullahs and all, they said, oh, you're interfering in our personal law.
Yeah.
Because according to Sharia law, she doesn't deserve any alimony. But Supreme Court said no, nothing doing. But Rajiv Gandhi, right, and he saw an opportunity for vote bank Muslim to appease the Muslims. He overturned the Supreme Court's decision because he had brute majority in the parliament, 414. So he had 3/4 majority. So you only need 2/3 majority to change, and he did that. And that created a lot of this thing. What is going on? And today Congress is accusing BJP of changing the constitution. Here they overturned the Supreme Court decision, highest court of the land. BJP has never done that ever. So they're saying, you're accusing us? You look at your dad, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, what he did.
Rajiv Gandhi.
Yeah. And it's called Shah Bano case. And that proved deadly for Congress.
And that may also have contributed to BJP as well.
That contributed to BJP getting 82 seats.
82 seats.
And then BJP, no stopping for BJP after that.
Yeah.
They just went from strength to strength to strength. And Modi just dealt the final blow to Congress.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop our podcast because I thought we would be able to cover everything until 2024, but there's so much history.
You have 77 years of history.
Okay,
you can't cover in even like half a day.
That's true, but I think you definitely covered most of the important topics and brought in your own personal touch, which I'm sure our audiences will appreciate.
I'm a BJP supporter, and so I try to keep my bias away from it and be objective, but it's hard to do that for anybody because it's hard to be completely neutral in today's India.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's good to know your biases and state them out as well so that people know what they're listening to as well.
And it's the facts which are more important,
which
can be verified. Which can be verified.
Yeah.
Shah Bano case is not an opinion, it's a fact.
It's a fact.
That Rajiv Gandhi overturned that is a fact, it's not my opinion.
Yeah.
I can say the Congress is bad, that's my opinion. And you can differ with me, but you can't differ on the facts.
Yeah, and I mean, from what I'm listening, based on the facts, it does look like the Congress party has acted very anti-democratically.
Absolutely.
From Nehru's time to Indira Gandhi's time with the emergency, and then what you've mentioned about Rajiv Gandhi, I think that definitely proves that.
How do you explain a situation today that Congress is literally wiped out from the entire North India?
I know
something. It's not just me who thinks like that, right? You can, for a moment, even if there are a lot of people who think that Congress has done something bad, right? Otherwise, you won't be in this situation. That 95% of seats that you contest against BJP, you lose. not just one state, 2 states, 3 states, 4 states, 10 states,
Yeah.
and two
Very abysmal performance.
consecutive Lok Sabha elections.
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes of Congress. And Hindi में कहते हैं कि पाप का घड़ा भर गया है. I mean, all their sins are coming, all the chickens are coming home to roost now. All the blunders that Nehru did, and even though Indira Gandhi was probably more wise than Nehru, but then Rajiv Gandhi was a disaster because of his inexperience and his arrogance, some people call it. And then finally Rahul Gandhi, who has absolutely no clue of what India is like.
Yeah.
So he lives in his own la la land in his mind.
Yeah.
And doesn't make way for anybody else. Look at BJP. 2 elections, Mr. Advani lost, and third time he was booted out.
Yeah,
The
it's
third part-
meritocratic.
Meritocratic.
Like, you have to give results, and then
You
we'll.
have to. It's like,
and then
yeah,
we'll put
it
you
should
in.
be. Why should you have be entitled to the highest chair in India based on just your lineage? Why
Absolutely.
should it be like that, right?
Absolutely.
So anyway, we'll talk more about it
Yeah.
in the next episode.
That was really good. I really enjoyed learning about all this. I didn't know about this Narasimha Rao, the fact that he was, that he allowed Ram Mandir to be broken. And I never thought about who the Prime Minister was at that time. So that's actually really interesting. But we'll continue this conversation in our next episode, in which we'll go in, deeper into Modi, his achievements, and go into the 21st century as well.